Wham, 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 wham. Yeah, you're not getting my shirt off in this. Look, I'm not in bad shape, but I do not have the body those guys have. Where I could just swim and anyone apart from my girlfriend swoons. But look, Magic Mike's Last Dance. I didn't put this in my box office prediction this week because I didn't even know that the movie was coming out. Let me rephrase that. Because it didn't list it in the box office schedule. They didn't list it in a release schedule on the site, so I didn't even know it was coming out. I knew it said it like in the lineup when I looked at like my other site I go to. So I'm like, oh, is it coming out? And sure enough, it did come out. And as someone who, as the poker term would be, is pot committed to the Magic Mike series, as I've seen the other two, it only made sense for me to close out the trilogy. I guess I should give my brief thoughts on the first two Magic Mikes. My review for the second one is on the channel. But the first Magic Mike was, look, who was I with? Because I think I was with someone when I saw that movie. But who was I with? It wasn't my first girlfriend. It was someone else. I don't know who I was with at the time. Point being, though, it's not a bad movie. I liked the actors in there. Channing Tatum was still in his early stages of his career. But it was definitely, it was also a little beyond the crappy Channing Tatum years, because let's be honest, he didn't start out very strong as an actor. I mean, even if you liked him in the early years, I think we can all agree he wasn't the strongest actor. But he improved, and now he's a pretty good actor. But look, I loved Gabriel Iglesias in there. Joe Manganiello is always a treat. Matthew McConaughey is just all right. But and the dancing's great. Like the strip dancing is great. The story is just kind of depressing and sad in a lot of ways. That's why it doesn't stand out to me as one of the better ones in the series. Magic Mike Triple XL or Double XL, that's a lot of fun. Like I do not. No hyperbole. I kind of really have fun with that movie. It's still them doing their shtick, but there's just a lot more charm and heart and fun in this version of in this movie. They can tell they're enjoying themselves a lot more. It's like them having one last stripper hurrah. I will always quote the line whenever it gets brought up about how good the line is from that movie of, now I'm going to push the light back a little bit so it's not just on my face. Then just like, I was like, I wish we could have met you guys back in our day. And Joe Manganiello just was like, well, man, Ram, I reckon it's still your day. You should see, look, everybody's like, fun times. And look, like the big show they do at the end, that's a lot of fun. So now we come to the third one, and allegedly the final one, the final tease, as you see on the poster there. And, the story is kind of what you've seen in the trailer, if you've seen the trailer. Mike kind of hit rough times. They even said that the pandemic happened, his business went under, and so he kind of just does odd jobs now. He's a bartender at a gig. He meets Selma Hayek, who's a millionaire. And, she wants this dance she heard he does, not realizing what he actually does. And then she just is captured by it, and they sleep together. And he's like, come back with me to London. We're going to put on a show, all that, and, give him like one more chance to do something great, sort of. So with all that, and with that bare bones plot there, how good is this movie? I will say this. This is probably the middle child of the series. Double XL is the best, I think, by a mile. The first one's probably the weakest, and this one falls roughly in the middle. There are elements of this one I actually have a lot of fun with. There are elements of this film I kind of went, God. And there's maybe one or two elements where I'm like, oh God, like that. What works in the movie? Selma Hayek and Channing Tatum really work. They had a very good chemistry with each other. Channing Tatum is actually able to get is actually one of those guys who can kind of just, because he's a very fun, easygoing guy in real life, I think that translates to him having a good natural chemistry with a lot of his co-stars. He had it with Sandra Bullock in The Lost City, I believe it's called. That one that came out last year, which was not a bad movie. It was an okay little comedy. But he did it with Channing. He did it with her. He has it with Jonah Hill. Just like, say, welcome back. What contract dispute? I don't know what you're talking about. But Yeah, and he and Salma Hayek work really well together. Salma Hayek's character is interesting. That falls into weird, good and not so good area, but she works well. Their story works very well. So when it gets to the end, you do feel like they've earned where they're at. All the performers are like all the dancers. They're great. Like they are legit. And watching them do the shit they're doing, you're like, holy crap! Like I could never do that. And I don't actually have that bad a rhythm when it comes to like movement and dancing. My girlfriend keeps saying, like, you're a really good natural dancer. It's like, okay, well, I'm not that good, but I mean, you're really. It's like, okay, sure. But no, I could never do that in a million years. The amount of Channing Tatum, and particularly in the first scene he does with Salma Hayek, it happens pretty early in the movie, like 10 minutes in. And it literally goes on for like 5 to 8 minutes. Like it's a long scene. Giggity, giggity. It's a long scene. Giggity. But no, it's a long scene. He is doing things with the core, with that you need core effing strength to do. Like he at one point is on like this bar, and he grabs it and he's lifting himself up like this and moving. I'm like, dear Lord in heaven, if I could do that once, I'd be impressed with myself. Like seriously, and yeah, Channing Tatum is one of those guys who's kind of always in shape, but other times he's in better shape than they even make a joke saying, how can you? It's like, I don't F with vegetables. How are you in such good shape? How do you have that body? Genetics, I guess. No, he's one of those guys who's always in shape to some degree or another. Sometimes more like svelte versus like buffed up. But yeah, when he's doing the magic Mike rolls, clearly he puts on the pounds a little bit again, muscle-wise, and tones back up. Dude was in great shape. And there's a good portion of jokes like with their interactions that work. Him being in the London scene and not really belonging necessarily, and still kind of being himself. That works out very well. There's some scenes with her daughter that are actually very fun. It's like, you're writing a novel? It's like, why? You don't think I can do it because of my age? Or is it, no, I just never known anyone who wrote a novel. How many pages is it? 40? That's a lot of pages. That'd probably be my response too. Is like, what, do you think I couldn't do it because of my age? Like, no, I've never known anyone to actually write a novel. No, people wrote stories, but not novels. Anyway, so yeah, and there are some weird moments. There's a scene where they have to get the approval of some person on like, I can't remember what board it is. That's like a certifying board for the theater they're in. And they just kind of corner her a little bit on like a bus, like the double-decker buses. And at first I'm like, okay, this could be random. And she's just taking it in stride. And then something happens at that scene, in the end of that scene, where I'm like, the hell? And she's just smiling and happy about it. Okay. That kind of leads me into the stuff that doesn't work. This is the most bare bones of plot. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't need overly complicated plots all the time. It all depends on how you structure the story and tell your story. If you could have like 3 or 4 major plot details, but if the story is structured and directed well and edited well, that can work out fine. But if you can have also just a simple premise, Rick and Morty half the time was, at least in the beginning, was just a simple premise of adventures and multiverses and stuff like that. Then it got more complicated later down the road. But what? Most rom-coms are not just the simple premise of boy meets girl or girl meets boy or girl meets girl or boy meets boy. And they just, will they, won't they? That's the simple generic premise of most rom-coms. And those can work too. My issue is, if you're going to go one way or the other, make sure that what you have is compelling enough to carry you through the entire film and keep you invested. There are points I'm watching the film where I'm really not caring, or I'm actually to the point where I'm actually watching like, dear God, chill out. Because the Salma Hayek character is a very ebb and flow character. When she's, I caught myself on that one. So let's try a different terminology then instead of ebb and flow, and you can kind of get where I realized I had to catch myself. She's a very polarizing character. She's a very left and right character. Okay, left and right is a better way to go. When she's left, and we'll just use left or right, whatever. When she's right, she's positive. She's energetic. You enjoy her energy, and you love her bouncing off of Channing Tatum. But there are other points, and they point out this flaw of hers that she seems like taking on these projects that she doesn't really ever complete. And like the whole idea is that the original play that was going on in the theater they took was kind of mirroring her life, and she does come off as very eccentric. He even says, "You are insane," you know that, and it's them reconciling after a fight they had. So you're insane, right? It's like, yeah, but yeah, she's kind of mental in some scenes. She is very just in your face. There's a scene in the car where they're talking. It's after like they had dinner, and they're just kind of flirting, and she starts kissing him, and he backs up just because he wants to know what this means, and then she just starts freaking out about it, and it's like, no, God, I'm so drunk. It's like, you only had one drink. It's like, what? Then I'm crazy, right? That's not what I said. It's like, you're crazy. She was being crazy. She was literally just going off just because he pulled back from the kiss when they made the arrangement not to be hooking up. So, and then she basically just covers it like, no, don't say anything, because anything you're going to say is going to be wrong. And like, I'm watching this like, okay, I get you have conflicting emotions, but seriously, calm the F down, because that's an extreme turnoff for someone right there. And you can tell too that Mike was like, okay, mm-hmm. and he was just like, it was just an awkward ride for them after that. It's like, I would kind of be pissed off at someone that kind of reacted to me, like literally just kept talking over me, like just saying you're either telling me I'm crazy or I'm drunk. That's it. It's like, that was neither of the two. You are literally creating something that is not true because you can't deal with what's going on right now. I wouldn't say it like that exactly, but like that. And if I were Mike, I would actually be kind of pissed off when someone like acted that way towards me. Like, we were having a moment, and if I pulled back, I'm just pulling back to understand what's happening right now. I'm not saying I don't want it. It's Selma Hayek, and her full name now is because she's married or remarried, whatever. Actually, no, they list her on IMDb as Selma Hayek, but her actual name apparently is Selma Hayek Pinault. I don't know her husband's last. I guess that's her husband's surname, but she's still Selma Hayek. Like, trust me, Selma Hayek starts macking on me. I'm like, if I pull back, she's like, okay, is this happening? It's like this happening. And then she starts acting like that. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just needed confirmation about what you wanted. Like, it's not, and there's a whole bit they do about, and there's nothing sexier without like asking permission. It's like, I just needed permission. Like, you're going to act like that. Jesus God. I'm not saying I'd be like done with her, but I'd be like, okay, I need a moment away from you now, because that was not just uncalled for. That was ridiculous and juvenile. She is kind of like a big, well-financed kid in this movie, child. And she has tantrums. And it's just, man, it really makes the character kind of unlikable at points. Now, ultimately, it comes to a head, and she ultimately is redeemed. I wouldn't say she's redeemed. She wasn't like irredeemable by any stretch of the means. She becomes more engaging by the end again. And it ultimately works out, and they reconcile. Happiness. I liked her daughter, by the way. Her adopted daughter, but her daughter. I thought she was a fun character. Because the whole idea is she calls her by her name because it's like, she feels like it's not her real mom in a business transaction or anything like that. And then eventually she calls her mom to kind of snap her out of her funk a little bit. And their Butler, I don't know what exactly he is. Caretaker, he was a lot of fun too. So yeah, and then you get the subplot of her ex or whatever, just cutting them off or risking the cut. And I'm like, okay, you're trying to throw more in here, but I just look, it's Magic effing Mike. You don't need to go for anything truly complex. Look, and honestly, I think the Selma Hayek character and the very simplistic plot are my two biggest complaints. Not every joke works, and it does feel like it kind of not drags its feet, but it's just going through the motions to get you to the climax of the film, which is a giant climax. No, it's a climax, definitely. It's a fun climax. It's a good dance number and all that. So do I recommend it? For the average moviegoer, probably not. For the Magic Mike enthusiasts out there, however many there are out there, I can't see any harm in it. It will also be on HBO Max, though, I'm almost positive. So if you don't want to go to the theater for it, while I do suggest supporting the theatrical experience, the teenage girls behind me were all just like giggling and laughing. So yeah, ultimately that's my thought. It was an okay film. It was an okay film. Nothing amazing out of it. Nothing god awful either. Just an okay film. But until then, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, you want to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. And hit that bell if you want to be notified. I'll see you folks next time.